Hey everybody. So coming to you from a little classroom, mailing out packets and DVDs and stuff. But I figured I'd go ahead and get some videos recorded. So we've now been through the first three acts. Romeo and Juliet have met, they've gotten married, and now they're being split up. Juliet has been told, you have to marry Paris or get out of my house. I'm disowning. So that's where we're at right now. So let's go ahead and just jump into Act 4. Now, Act 4, with the exception of the last scene, is pretty short. So I can go through and deal with some of this pretty quickly. So I'm going to be tying a few of these videos together. So Juliet, remember, has told her parents, or told the nurse to tell her parents, that she is going to Friar Lawrence's to confess. What she's really doing is going to Friar Lawrence's to see, is there any way out of this? So we come in, we're in the church, and Friar Lawrence and Paris are speaking. And Friar Lawrence says, on Thursday, sir, the time is very short, meaning, this is a time that he's being, like, he now knows about the wedding plans there. And Paris is saying, my father Capulet will have it so, and I am nothing slow to slack his haste. So he's like, that's how Capulet wants it, and I'm good with it. Friar Lawrence says, you say you do not know the lady's mind? Uneven is the course, I like it not. So he's kind of saying, look, you don't even know how she feels about you yet? Yeah, I don't know about this. Paris says, immoderately she weeps for Tybalt's death, and therefore have I little talked of love. For Venus smiles not in a house of tears. Now, sir, her father counts it dangerous that she do give her sorrow so much sway, and in his wisdom hastes our merits to stop the inundation of her tears, which, too many minded by herself alone, may be put from her by society. Now, do you know the reason of this haste? So he's kind of saying, I haven't had time. She's been crying about Tybalt this whole time. I haven't had a chance to talk to her about love, and romance doesn't really happen when people are sad. So her father thinks it's dangerous that she's so sad about this. So he's being pretty smart about this to rush through our marriage, because maybe if she's not alone, she won't be so sad. Friar Lawrence says to himself, I would I knew not why it should be slowed. So he's like, God, I wish I didn't know the reason why we need to calm this down. Then he sees Juliet coming in. He says, look, sir, here comes the lady towards myself. Juliet comes into the scene. And Paris says, happily met, my lady and my wife. He's like, oh, sweet. It's nice to meet you, my lady and my wife. And Juliet says, that may be, sir, when I may be a wife. So she's like, you might be able to say that to me when I'm actually married. And Paris says, that maybe must be love on Thursday next. So it's like, that may be married, must be married on Thursday. Juliet says, what must be shall be. And Friar Lawrence says, that's a certain text. So he's like, that's true. What's going to be is going to be. Came you to make a confession to this father? To answer that, I should confess to you, Juliet says. So Paris is like, oh, did you come to make a confession? She goes, if I answered that, I'll be confessing to you and not to him. Paris says, do not deny to him that you love me. So she's like, don't you lie and say that you don't love me. And Juliet says, I will confess to you that I love him. She's like, well, I'll tell you that I love him. Paris says, so will ye. I am sure that you love me. And he's like, oh, I'm certain that you're also going to confess to him that you love me. I mean, Paris is landed on really freaking thick here. And Juliet says, if I do so, it will be of more price being spoke behind your back than to your face. So she's like, if I say that, it'll actually mean more saying it behind your back than to your face. Paris says, poor soul, thy face is much abused with tears. You've been crying so much, your eyes are puffy. Juliet says, the tears have got small victory by that, for it was bad enough before their spite. So she's like, my tears didn't do much to my face. It looked pretty bad before I started crying. And Paris says, thou wrongst it more than tears with that report. He's like, you're saying you're doing worse to your face than the tears did, if that's the case. Juliet says, that is no slander, sir, which is a truth. And what I spake it to my face. So she's like, it's not talking bad about it, it's truth. And I said it to my face. Paris says, thy face is mine, and thou hast slandered it. So Paris is like, well, your face is mine. And now you've slandered it. You've spoke against it. And Juliet says, it may be so, for it is not mine own. Are you at leisure, Holy Father, now, or shall I come to you at evening mass? So she's like, well, that might be the case, because my face doesn't belong to me. And then she asks Father Lawrence, do you have time now, or should I come later? Should I come at the later church service? And Friar Lawrence says, my leisure serves me, pensive daughter, now. My lord, we must entreat the time alone. So he's like, absolutely, I've got the time. He tells Paris, look, you've got to beat it. We've got to be alone. Paris says, God's shield, I should disturb devotion. Juliet, on Thursday early will I rouse ye. And he kisses her. Till then, adieu, and keep this holy kiss. So he's like, oh, God forbid I prevent you from going speaking with the preacher. Juliet, I'm going to come get you up early on Thursday. Until then, keep this kiss. And she leaves. And now Juliet is done. Oh, shut the door. And when thou hast done so, come weep with me, past hope, past cure, past help. She's like, go shut the door and come cry for me. This is beyond hope. It's beyond help. It's beyond cure. And Friar Lawrence says, oh, Juliet, I already know thy grief. It strains me past the compass of my wits. I hear thou must, and nothing may prorogue it, on Thursday be married to this county. So he's like, I already know your situation. And it's honestly really too hard for me to solve. I hear that you got to marry Paris on Thursday. Juliet says, tell me not, friar, that thou hearest of this, unless thou tell me how I may prevent it. If in thy wisdom thou canst give no help, do thou but call my resolution wise, and with this knife I'll help it presently. So she pulls out a knife. And she says, friar, don't tell me that you've heard the problem unless you can tell me how I can stop the problem. And if you can't tell me you can stop the problem, then at least tell me that I'm about to make the right decision, and I'll stop it with this. I'll solve the problem right now, meaning kill herself. God join my heart and Romeo's, thou our hands, and ere this hand by thee to Romeo sealed shall be the label to another deed, or my true heart with treacherous revolt turn to another, this shall slay them both. Therefore, out of thy long experience time, give me some present counsel, or behold, twixt my extremes and me this bloody knife shall play the umpire, arbitrating that which the commission of thy years and art could to no issue of true honor bring. Be not so long to speak, I long to die. If what thou speakest, speak not of remedy. So she's like, God joined our hearts, and you joined our hands in marriage. And this hand is tied to Romeo. I'm married to him. And if I have to marry another man, I'll kill myself. You're wise. You've got a lot of experience. Please tell me what to do, but don't wait too long. Be not so long to speak. Then she says, I long to die. If what thou speakest, speak not of remedy. If don't wait too long to speak, because if you don't give me a solution, I want to die. And Friar Lawrence says, hold, daughter, I do spy a kind of hope, which craves as desperate an execution as that is desperate which we would prevent. If, rather than marry County Paris, thou hast the strength of will to slay thyself, then it is likely thou wilt undertake a thing like death, to chide away this shame, that copeth with death himself to escape from it. And if thou darest, I'll give thee remedy. So he's like, I have some hope. I see some kind of way, but we have to act desperately. And honestly, if you'd rather kill yourself than marry Paris, then you're desperate enough to go through with what I'm talking about. And Juliet says, oh, bid me leap rather than marry Paris from off the battlements of yonder tower, or walk in thievish ways, or bid me lurk where serpents are, chain me with roaring bears, or shut me nightly in the charnel house, or covered quite with dead men's rattling bones, with reeky shanks and yellow chapless skulls, or bid me go into the new-made grave and hide me with a dead man in his shroud, things that, to hear them told, have made me tremble, and I will do it without fear or doubt to live an unstained wife to my sweet love. So she's like, instead of marrying Paris, you can tell me to jump off of the top of the tower, or to sit in a field with poisonous snakes, or to walk through the crime, like the terrible parts of the street, or to sit in a morgue all night with the decomposing bodies, or to climb down into a grave and use a dead man to hide me. All of these things would normally make me tremble, but I'd do them without fear and without worry if it would keep me from having to be with anybody but Romeo. And Friar Lawrence says, hold then, go home, be merry. Give consent to marry Paris. Wednesday is tomorrow. Tomorrow night, look that thou lie alone. Let not the nurse lie with thee in thy chamber. And he shows her a vial. So he says, go home. Be happy, be cheerful. Tell them you're going to marry Paris. Tomorrow night is Wednesday. Or tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow night, make certain that when you go to bed, you're alone. Don't let the nurse sleep in your room with you. And he gives her a vial, a little container of liquid. Take thou this vial, being then in bed, and this distilled liquor drink thou off. When presently through all thy veins shall run a cold and drowsy humor, for no pulse shall keep his native progress, but surcease. No warmth, no breath shall testify that thou livest. The roses in thy lips and cheeks shall fade to paly ashes. Thy eyes' windows fall like death when he shuts up the day of life. Each part deprived of supple government shall, stiff and stark and cold, appear like death. And in this borrowed likeness of shrunk death, thou shalt continue for 42 hours, and then awake as from a pleasant sleep. Now, when the bridegroom in the morning comes to rouse thee from thy bed, there art thou dead. Then, as the manner of our country is, in thy best robes uncovered on the bier, thou shalt be borne to that same ancient vault where all the kindred of the Capulets lie. In the meantime, again thou shalt awake. Shall Romeo by my letters know our drift, and hither shall he come, and he and I will watch thy waking, and that very night shall Romeo bear thee hence to Mantua. And this shall free thee from thy present shame, if no unconstant toy, no womanish fear abate thy valor in acting. So he's like, go home and drink this. And when you've drank it all off, you're going to have cold run through your veins, and you're going to get drowsy, and you're going to go to sleep. And your heartbeat, your pulse will stop. and your flesh will get cold. You'll stop breathing. You'll turn pale. Your eyes will shut. It'll make it seem like you're dead. You won't be able to move. You'll be stiff like a corpse. And this is going to last for 42 hours. And then you'll just wake up from this sleep. Now, whenever Paris comes to get you on Thursday, he'll see you laying in your room dead. Now, in our country, we dress you in your best clothes and we'll carry you to the Capulet tomb. 42 hours, or when you wake up, I'll send a letter to Romeo. In the meantime, Romeo and I will be standing there waiting on you when you wake up. Then, that night, Romeo will take you to Mantua. You'll be free, and you can go off and live with him as long as you don't become scared like a silly woman, and you can't do it. That's why he says, if no unconstant toy nor womanish fear abate thy valor in acting. So he's like, as long as you don't get scared, this is going to work. And Juliet says, give me, oh, tell me not of fear. She's like, give me that. Don't even talk to me about fear. And he gives it to her. Hold, get you gone. Be strong and prosperous in this resolve. I'll send a friar with speed to Mantua with my letters to thy lord. And Juliet says, Lord, give me strength, and strength shall help afford. Farewell, dear father. And they both leave. So Romeo's like, just go along your way, be strong. I'm going to send somebody to Mantua with a letter for Romeo. And she's like, love will give me strength, and that strength will help me go through this. And then we move on to scene 2. So as you can see, these scenes in Act 4 are pretty short. So in comes Capulet, Lady Capulet, the nurse, few of the servants. Capulet gives a paper to the first servant. So many guests invite here as our writ. So he's like, it's another guest list. He's giving off a guest list. That servant leaves. To the second serviceman, he says, Sirrah, go hire me 20 cunning cooks. He's like, you, go hire me 20 great cooks. And the second serviceman says, you shall have none ill, sir, for I'll try if they can lick their fingers. So he's like, go on and, you're not going to have a bad one because I'm going to make them lick their fingers. And Capulet says, how canst thou try them so? He's like, what good's that going to do? A second servantman says, marry, sir, 'tis an ill cook that can't lick his own fingers. Therefore, he that cannot lick his own fingers goes not with me. So he's like, a bad cook won't lick the food off their fingers. So if they can't do that, not coming with me. Capulet says, go, be gone. We shall be much unfurnished for this time. He's like, get out of here. We're unprepared. Servant man leaves. What, is my daughter gone to Friar Lawrence? The nurse says, forsooth. He's like, yes, that's true. Well, he may chance to do some good on her. A peevish, self-willed harlotry it is. So he's like, hopefully Friar Lawrence talks some sense in her because this is ridiculous. She's stubborn. Juliet comes into the scene. See where she comes from shrift with merry look, says the nurse. Like, see, she's come from confession and she's happy. And Capulet says, how now, my headstrong? Where have you been gadding? So he's like, headstrong daughter, stubborn daughter. Where have you been? Juliet says, where I learned me to repent the sin of disobedient opposition to you and your behests. And I'm enjoined by holy Lawrence to fall prostrate here and beg your pardon. So laying prostrate is being on your knees, facing the floor. So he's like, I've learned to repent the sin of being disobedient to my father. Friar Lawrence told me to come, fall on my knees, and ask for your forgiveness. Pardon, I beseech you. Forgive me, I beg you. Henceforward, I am ever ruled by you. I'm going to do whatever you want me to do going forward, whatever you say. And Capulet says, send for the county. Go tell him of this. I'll have this knot knit up tomorrow morning. So it's like, go tell Paris. I'll have us married tomorrow. And Juliet says, I met the youthful lord at Lawrence's cell and gave him what become to love I might, not stepping o'er the bounds of modesty. So she's like, I met him and I treated him properly. I didn't step over the bounds and not act modest. Capulet says, why, I'm glad on it. This is well. Stand up. Juliet stands up. 'Tis as it should be. Let me see the county. Ah, Mary, go, I say, and fetch him thither. Now, afore God, this reverend holy friar, our whole city is bound to him. So he's like, go get Paris. I want to see him right now. Bring him here. And honestly, Friar Lawrence, the whole city owes him thanks. Juliet tells him, is like, nurse, will you go with me into my closet to help me sort some needful ornaments, as you think fit to furnish me tomorrow? So the Friar or Capulets moved the dates up. It's no longer Thursday. Now we're getting married tomorrow. So Juliet's like, nurse, can you come help me get some clothes ready and some jewelry for tomorrow? And Lady Capulet says, no, not till Thursday. There's time enough. It's like, no, it's not till Thursday. There's plenty of time. So Capulet says, go, nurse, go with her. We'll to church tomorrow. So Capulet's like, no, this is happening tomorrow. So go get her ready. The nurse and Juliet leave. And Lady Capulet says, we shall be short in our provisions. It's now near night. She's like, we're not going to have all the stuff we need for the party. It's already night. Capulet says, tush, I will stir about and all things shall be well. I warrant thee. Go thou to Juliet, help to deck her up. I'll not to bed tonight. Leave me alone. I'll play the housewife for this once. So he's like, hush. Everything's going to be great. I swear to you, I promise you. So you go help Juliet, and I'm going to be up all night getting things ready. I'm going to be the housewife tonight. And Lady Capulet exits. And Capulet's still like, what? Oh, they're all forth. Well, I will walk myself to County Parish to prepare him up against tomorrow. My heart is wondrous light, since the same wayward girl is so reclaimed. And he exits. So he's like, what? Everybody's gone? Well, you know what? I'll just go to Paris myself. I'll go make certain that I talk to him myself, and we go from there. He leaves. So that takes us out of scenes 1 and 2. So this is going to be an assignment on its own, pretty short assignment. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have on the website here. All right, so here's our work. So let's take a look here, zoom in. Okay, so read Friar Lawrence's speech in Act 4, Scene 1. So towards the end of it, the plan that Friar Lawrence comes out, in which he lays out his plan for Juliet. Then distill the plan into 6 steps and detail them in your own words. See if you can identify possible problems. So figure out Friar Lawrence's plan, break it out into 6 steps. Explain the steps here. Then possible problems, put here. Can you think of a better plan than the one the friar came up with? Detail it below, taking into account the context of the time and the pressure from her parents. So, can you come up with a better plan than Friar Lawrence? If so, write it down here. That's your assignment for this one. It's pretty short, shouldn't take you too awful long. All right. That's it for Act 4, Scenes 1 and 2. Our next video will cover Scene 3, 4, 5. We'll cover the rest of Act 4. Again, they're all pretty short. So we'll go from there. Hopefully everybody's staying safe. Until next time.